welcome everybody. I'm Ashley Firm here with Joshua Koehn with Pristine Landscape and Lighting. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
Of course. Let's talk about what the new updates are for your company right now.
Yeah, well, by the time this comes out, the weather will probably be different, but this is the first cold day we've had in, 6 months now. So it's a good thing for landscaping because people actually start thinking about, oh, yeah, my stuff I couldn't get done because it was too hot during the summertime. We can actually start looking at now. So I'm sure we'll start getting a lot more people talking to us because right now we're kind of at the end of our list of people that we've built up from spring, which is kind of normally how it works out. By the time you get to the end of May, you're booked out 3 months. So even though you don't sell a lot during summer, you still stay busy. But now we're kind of getting to the end of that list. So it's always good whenever you start picking up new work. And then it also brings in the new season of doing Christmas lights because we're at the second half of October. So people are starting to plan that ahead because Christmas lights are kind of a scheduling problem. You know, people only have so much capacity, and once they hit that, they just can't do more. It's not like landscaping where I can just book you 3 months out. 3 months from now, it's January, and you kind of defeat the purpose.
Well, a lot of people I've noticed are scheduling their Christmas lights earlier and earlier.
I did. I noticed that this year too. Like
the city
I saw the first
started.
couple. A lot of commercial buildings are done. I noticed a lot of residential ones that went up like the second week of October. So it's definitely, normally now is when people are asking, but they're not actually doing it. But there's a lot of stuff going up. Yeah,
they're just ready to go. They're going to be ready November 1 with Christmas lights turned on. Talk a little bit about the new season. What are some maintenance tips that homeowners can focus on? I mean, I know it was cold today, but it's supposed to be 86 next week. So
I was surprised by that too. I saw that as like we dip way down, goes back up, then goes right back down again.
It'll be 75 for Thanksgiving. So
that's okay though.
So maintenance tips.
Yeah, so basically right now, a lot of people forget that grass still grows. People during October, November think, everything's all done. Grass is still going to grow, especially the weeds in there too. So right now is the time for your post-emergent to help kill weeds because you need to put that down as your grass goes dormant. All those winter weeds start growing in. So if you don't put that down, they can kind of run free range because there's no competition. They're not using that much nutrients, not that much water. So new grass can come in and take over. And then during the springtime, you're just full of weeds like crazy and it's weakening your grass. So you got to do that now. Unfortunately, with the post-emergent or even a pre-emergent, it's temperature sensitive. And so if it's too hot, it doesn't do the chemical reaction, so it doesn't work. If it's too cold, same thing. So you kind of have to have the right mix of temperature, and it's not the air temperature, it's the ground temperature. So you also need to make sure, like, say it's 70 degrees today, it's like, well, the ground temperature might still be too hot, or it might be because it's been cold, it's too cold on the ground. And so you just have to watch those, make sure it's installed, or else you're just kind of throwing stuff out there and it's not going to do anything.
Yeah. Well, some people will probably start like slowly not mowing their yards probably after this month. So how do you guys keep up with the winter change as far as a company?
So we do, so we do something a little different. So we kind of do like mini projects. So we run winter services. A lot of companies, they pretty much they shut down and they're done. That's all they do. That's why a lot of them go to, say, Christmas lights, because it's something that ends about the same time as Christmas lights begins. But we do something called winter services where we go from, normally we do weekly mowing for people. We go to bi-weekly, so every 2 weeks. And instead of doing mowing, we'll do things to catch up on. So it's things that would normally cost you a lot more. Let's say to mow your lawn, it takes about 30 minutes. So we'll spend 30 minutes like trimming bushes, trimming your trees, weeding out the flower beds, cleaning gutters, blowing leaves off. Some like once every 6 weeks or so, you still need to mow because there's winter weeds or just the grass just comes up a little bit. So between November, December, January, February, we'll mow probably 2 or 3 times. But out of those 12 visits, you still have another 9 or so that we're working on other things. But if I came out to trim your bushes, we're going to be charging $200-$300 depending on how many bushes there are. Where we're just going to be charging the same amount we would do for mowing instead. And so it's a lot cheaper, kind of helps catch up if you didn't do those projects or do it themselves or pay us to do it, to come back and take care of that.
So even if y'all still continue to mow through the winter, it doesn't kill your grass come spring? Interesting.
Yeah, we just don't mow. So instead, we'll mow once in a while, but for the most part, it's doing the cleanups.
Just the preventative stuff. Okay, that makes sense because I was like, I always thought it killed your grass.
Yeah, no, it just goes dormant. So
Okay.
it's just normally you're not cutting anything if you just mow every time. And so then people are like, you're just trying to make money off of us. It's like, so this gives them a really good deal because it's cheaper than if they went in and did that like as a project. They called us out just to do the bushes. And so we'll just, every house is different. We don't really say this is the order we're going to do it because some people, they have young bushes, they don't need to get trimmed, but they have a lot of weeds. So we'll spend more time doing weeds on one house, and the next house, like the tree's really bad, so we'll start on the tree. So every time is different.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just like dying. Like it's like chipping off, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
What are some key factors for like going into landscaping design projects that you focus on?
Yeah. So when we come in, we're trying to find out, ask a lot of questions like what is it that they're looking for? Why do they want it? Do they have any kind of pictures? A lot of times people have like from Pinterest or Instagram, other ideas, or maybe their old house that they had before. They're like, we really like these pieces and let's change this. And then from there, we can actually go in and make a 3D design of what it's going to look like and then show that to them, make edits on the design until we do something that's right. So like we have one we're working on right now for an outdoor pergola. It's got a patio cover. It's got an outdoor kitchen, concrete, retaining walls, a couple different things, but there's a lot of details within there. And then we're also going to have to go get engineering plans for this as well. And so all those things just makes the process smoother whenever you can, just figure that out ahead of time.
Yeah. I wanted to talk about retaining walls because those seem to be really popular right now. So. I mean, just talk to us about retaining walls. Yeah,
retaining walls are kind of a big deal because if you get over 3 feet tall, you're having to bring in engineers, the city. They're having to just make a whole plan to make sure it can hold that weight because people, if they install the wall wrong, they can install the wall the right way, but if it doesn't have, say, the proper drainage, water can't get out. And now it's holding 2 to 3 times the amount of weight that it would otherwise hold from just the dirt because the water is just like a big bowl and it's sitting there holding it. Yeah. And it will literally blow the wall out. Like it'll look like a little bomb went off because it just explodes out whenever it happens. Sure. And so they want to make sure so when it's under 3 feet, it still needs to be built a certain way. It's just less likely that it's going to have too much weight against it. And so then you have to kind of go in and plan, is it better to put a paver block wall with a cap on it? Should it be something with a concrete mortar? Is it going to be a natural stone? Is it going to be more of like a modern square block type deal? So there's a lot of different ways. You can also do like wood retaining walls. I'm not a fan of those because you can use like railroad ties or like a fence for like a foot or 2 high. They just tend more to rot and cause problems.
Kind of get washed
but they're
out
cheap,
too.
So they're cheap, but they can work. But I don't like using those. I don't install that kind of stuff.
So what makes homeowners want retaining walls? Is it just like aesthetically pleasing? Does it actually help
this
with
last
the
couple
landscape?
weeks, 2 of them that came in. One guy, he's got just water pouring into his backyard from his neighbor, and so he needs a wall to build it up. So the water can get redirected, and because all that water is dragging soil down, which is making it worse and worse. Yeah. Another one that we just signed up, we're building a 3-foot retaining wall because their backyard slopes a lot, and so when we build the wall to come up, now they can have a good flat yard. So they just need to bring the fence up. They flatten the yard because right now it's too steep to do anything, and so many different reasons. Mostly it's something that's on a hill. And you're trying to bring up the level to that hill so you can better utilize the area. I
was talking to Chris about this when it came to like the roofing side, but do you have to get HOA approval to be able to raise the fence?
Everything.
I mean, do you see them deny it often? Or
no, not really. So like one we're dealing with that's kind of funky right now is in Texas, or I don't know about Texas, but at least in the Dallas area for the most part, cities don't require permits and they don't require engineering planning for retaining walls under 3 feet. There's one we're dealing with where they're saying anything over 2 feet. So it's like they're having to spend at least $5,000 more just because the HOA wants this thing that's not even legit. Yeah. And it's kind of annoying dealing with that. But
I was wondering, because some HOA, it's really just fence height. Like in my neighborhood,
you can
actually have 2 different type of fence heights, which I haven't seen in a while. Yeah. So interesting, really interesting.
Every HOA is different. There's nothing the same about them. Yeah. Sometimes your easements are like 1 foot. So basically, from your fence going into your yard, sometimes it's 1 foot, sometimes it's 5 feet, where you can't have anything permanent like concrete or pavers, a shed, anything like that. So finding those out beforehand is really important because if you do, if you think it's 1 foot, it's actually 5, then technically they can sue you to take all that out and put it into the right area.
Yeah. Well, that's what I've noticed is sometimes the city versus the HOA is conflicting because the HOA technically trumps the city, which to me, it doesn't make sense.
Well, city's talking about legal, HOA's talking about their preference.
Yeah.
And so it's like, the legally, you're not going to get, the city isn't going to come after you,
Yeah.
but the HOA still can. So they stack on each other.
But that kind of sucks, especially when you're spending thousands of dollars on a big
Yeah, it's like,
project.
this isn't necessary. They're just being overly cautious. They just want to make sure there's not going to be any problems, but it's just,
Sure.
if it was dangerous, why isn't the city doing it?
Yeah, absolutely. What are some mistakes that you see homeowners make that just want to do landscaping themselves?
Well, a lot of times people find out after they do it, it's not going to look very good. I've seen a lot of people do projects and they have this idea of what they think it's going to look like. And then by the time they get done, it looks nothing like that. And it costs them the money, but now they also cost more money for someone to take it out and come back in and redo it. And so it kind of goes back to this old adage, the cheapest guy is normally more expensive. Like I've had homeowners talking about like, well, I know how to do it. I just don't have time. If I could go in and do it, it'd cost me $1,000 in materials. I don't understand why you guys are charging $5,000. It's like, well, because you are doing it. You're not paying for any labor. That's why it's cheaper. Wait, I don't only pay for materials. I have to pay for labor. There's trucks and deliveries and trailers and insurance. There's all this other stuff that if I didn't have, you wouldn't hire me for.
Sure.
That's why it costs more.
Yeah, granted, some people do a really great job on their yards, but that's like far and few between.
Yeah, because like the only people that can really do a good job have either done it a bunch before, so they paid the ignorance tax, I guess you could say, of learning how to do that and failing at it one or two times.
Yeah.
Or they already do it for a living. So, of course, why would you hire somebody else? But, like, if a pilot or a lawyer or somebody else, like, we're not saying you're not handy, but it's like, that's not what you specialize in. That's why, like, if I'm getting sued, I don't call another landscaper, I call a lawyer.
Right.
Because they're probably not going to do it right.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
there's the ignorance tax is what I call it, of like, well, you have to fail at it one or two times.
Yeah.
And then either redo it or you did it at your last place, and now this is going to be better. And you can do that. It's just, do you want to?
Yeah.
Because once again, you're buying the materials a few times. It looks bad.
True.
You don't really want to spend your weekends doing it. It takes a lot longer too. Like, if I have a 5-man crew that comes out and knocks it out in 2 days, they're experienced. And so if you go out and do it with zero experience, that's going to take you 10 days. And so if you work throughout the week, that's like 6 or 7 completely full weekends working full time.
Yep.
Instead of being able to take your time off. So that's what you're paying for. You're just paying for someone that knows what they're doing. They're going to do it right the first time. There's a lot, even landscapers, they miss a lot of the details. Like I was talking to my suppliers earlier today, and like why I don't use certain materials. It's like, well, if I use a really small rock over the new French drain, well, guess what? Those small rocks are going to clog the French drain. Nobody really thinks about that though. They're just sitting there like, well, we'll just put this on top and it'll just work, right? It's like, no. It's like, so some of those things you got to learn, and until you won't find out until after it's already done.
Yeah.
And then now you got to go redo. You can't just go fix it. You can't fix that. You got to go take it out.
Sure.
And you don't want to learn. You don't know what you don't know until you find out, and it's too late then.
Yeah. So you're talking about people spending thousands of dollars on equipment. Let's talk about all the new
there's equipment too.
Fancy, funky robot equipment coming out, the battery power, I don't know, whatever you want to call it.
So something that's really big right now that I wouldn't say hurts me at all, but it's just something we're going to have to switch into is robot mowers. I found out just the other day that there have been robot mowers forever. They're like the Roomba for the inside of your house. There's now apparently a mower that has edger and weed whacker attachments onto it as well, that's kind of the barrier. It's like, why would you go spend? I mean, these things are like a couple $1,000s sometimes for a mower that you still have to go out, weed whack and edge.
Right.
Like you're still having to pay someone else to go do that. And then this part still isn't solved. You have to have someone else that still blows it off too. Like it's still not getting cleaned up after. So you still have to do that, which that's a lot easier. But now that there's the extra attachments, mowing might just be done by robots completely now. So
And how's that going to affect your industry?
So the way I see it is just because they're so expensive, the prices will come down a lot. But if it's going to be like commercial, scalable size, especially for actual commercial properties, but like for even the residentials, no one's going to want to pay $1,000, $2,000. So they're probably going to have companies that rent them out. And so instead of having my guys be sent out, we're just going to send out a mower, set it up, depending on how it's set up. Right now, there's a lot of them using LiDAR. So they're using basically like a laser around them to check, something about to get knocked into, that kind of thing. Sometimes they have wires, so you set them on the perimeter, so that way the mower knows when to stop and go back in. Some of them, they just have to explore themselves, kind of like how a Roomba did it for a long time. And then eventually they figured out, I've never seen that though. That's the funny thing. When I was growing up, we had one. I never actually saw it make a pattern. It always is exploring and just doing weird patterns.
It just goes around. It misses chunks of dirt all the time. And it can't get in the corners because it's round.
Yep. So that's where, depending on whatever system it is, set that system up so it stays in the right area and program it, and then come back for maintenance every once in a while.
Would you say that's a new trend?
I think so. It's going to be cheaper because it's so hard to find labor these days. Everyone says it's because nobody wants to work hard, and I think that's an aspect. But I also just think there's so many other opportunities now from working from home that you can make just as much money. So why would you do this?
Yeah.
And so this is going to help solve some of that labor issue, is because if you can take out a ton of people and just have maintenance, and then I think maybe just blowing off, because that's still not solved. I don't really see how they would solve that unless you just add all these attachments, which then somebody still has to put the attachments on and all that kind of thing. So we're probably gonna have to send somebody out to go clean it and blow it off, maybe weed whack, quality check, something like that, and do maintenance on it. But one guy can handle, a couple hundred properties at that point instead of just 20 or 50.
Yeah.
And so now you can expand that out. So prices can go down a bit. Probably make a little bit more money just because there's so much capital investment to buy 100 robot mowers at $1,000, $2,000 a piece.
Yeah.
So you're going to have a huge upfront cost, but
not every company might be in the position to do that either.
And that's where the condensing down.
Yourself apart.
Yeah, so that's where people are going to get condensed down. Where now they're going to be more expensive. Now some people are always going to want a human there maybe to do that, but realistically, that's going to eventually pricing wins.
It's going to be interesting because our front yard, we have a little tree smack in the middle, and then we have a funky shaped flower bed, if that's what you want to call them. That mower will most likely miss it or chop something up it shouldn't have.
And that's where it'll have to learn. But if it has that weed whacker attachment, then it can have a 4 foot or 4 inch edge that it can do all the way around, and then that'll fix that.
Yeah, I mean,
but that's the first I've heard of it. So that's a new piece they added on. So as long as it works, then that would solve a lot of those issues.
Yeah, somebody will need trial and error for sure. What about design trends? Typically when do you start seeing new design trends come out for the season?
So you don't really see that, at least not for me. I haven't seen where spring comes up and there's this completely different setup that people are going after. But when you go on between 2 to 10 quotes a day, you just start to see what people are interested in. What is it that they're seeing online, pictures that they're showing you. And that's kind of how you know where things are going and what to recommend for people. Right now, it's really big to have desert style plants, have river rock, especially the darker kind, because that goes with the modern house, is having the almost black teos, having gravel paths, having stonework, especially squared off with a cap onto it now, where last year it was just the stone wall, and the year before that was pretty much just a stone wall too. But now it's a lot of half the people are at least bringing up well, what does it cost to do a cap on it? And then instead of doing a round front, just square it off straight with it. And so just little things like that, just slowly tweaking. This year for Christmas lights, I'm noticing a lot more diversity of color being asked for. Maybe it's the ads we're running, I don't know, but it's just last year it was 99% of people wanted white lights. And I think everybody had that. And now everyone's well, how do I stand out? And now they're being more creative about it.
Yeah. If I want white lights, they're staying on year round,
Yeah.
Well, the jellyfish lights confuse me too.
Yeah. So.
Because I'm oh man, they've had Christmas lights up. I'm jellyfish.
Yeah. So we've had a lot more people reaching out to us about that already this year too. So that's something it's kind of like the robotic thing. That's sort of the next level of Christmas lights, is probably going to be the more permanent lighting, because for $5,000 to $10,000, it's a one-time thing. It goes in. Most of the suppliers have lifetime warranties on the bulbs, and so if they have an issue, they should be taking care of it. Sure. And so you're paying back the system in a couple of years versus paying somebody else to come do it.
Yeah. You don't need to be a licensed electrician to do jellyfish lights?
I'm not sure. So we don't do those right now. Okay. It's something we're looking into, just because I do see that picking up.
Yeah.
There's more and more people doing that. I see more and more houses with it.
Yeah. Well, a lot of them do it more for the uplighting style anyway, which you'll obviously do that. So interesting. Anything else you want to share about the landscaping side? Anything new that's going on?
Well, so we're trying a couple new things this year. So, everything sounds good in theory. So we'll see how it goes, because right now, so we hired another office staff because we're expecting a huge influx of quotes for the Christmas lighting. So probably first, second week of November, we're going to stop completely putting up any landscaping and just do Christmas lights. Go back to projects in January, so that way all the stuff that we've been, booking out, we'll start working on then. Go out, take all the Christmas lighting down. Because since we're going from every week to every 2 weeks on the mowing side, all my mower guys can just go out and take down lights, and it'll take a little bit longer than what it took to put it up. But as long as it's on the schedule, most people don't care. They just want to make sure that it's done at some point, and then I'll take care of that.
That's great. That's awesome.
And then we can start hiring people, hopefully, when nobody else can hire people, so that we can pick up even better and more of the talent that we're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, awesome. Well, thanks for joining us. We will see you next time.
All right.